Have you ever felt like your team is rowing as hard as they can in one direction, but another team is pulling the exact opposite way? It is a massive source of friction at work. Well, today we're going to break down a really simple but super powerful leadership rule that just cuts right through that conflict and gets everyone on the same page. Let's dive in.
So, let's start with a question that, probably feels a little too real. Have you ever been on a team where everyone's smart, everyone's working their tail off, but it still feels like you're in this constant tug of war with another department? Yeah, it's an incredibly common and deeply frustrating problem.
Okay, here's a classic example. Picture this. You've got a production team, and their number one goal is maximizing efficiency, right? Get as much product out the door as fast as possible. But then you've got the quality team, and their goal is to maximize product quality, even if it totally slows things down. Both teams are trying to do a great job, but their core goals are putting them on a total collision course.
So where does all this friction actually come from? Well, the root cause is this kind of nearsighted focus. It happens when leaders get so laser-focused on their own department's targets that they completely lose sight of the bigger picture. And it's a really natural trap to fall into, because most companies are set up to reward this kind of thinking in silos. People are just trying to climb their own ladder without ever realizing it's leaned up against the wrong wall.
And look, this isn't just about being inefficient. This stuff is genuinely damaging. This kind of misalignment kicks off a downward spiral. People get disengaged. They're dealing with mental and physical fatigue from all the fighting. And maybe worst of all, they start to feel like all their hard work just doesn't have any real impact. And that is just a killer for morale. But there is a way out of this, and it's actually beautifully simple. It's called the 2 levels up rule, and it's basically a framework that helps leaders expand their view beyond their own little silo and find that critical common ground. So here's the rule. You look 2 levels up the organizational hierarchy. And you might be asking, why 2? Well, that's the magic number, because that's usually the level where you find the common goals that both you and your counterpart ultimately report into. It's all about figuring out what your boss's boss is trying to accomplish.
That's the key right there. Not just 1 level up to your direct boss, but 2. This simple little shift in perspective, it unlocks a whole new way of thinking about how to work together.
So this chart shows you exactly how it works. See, down at the bottom, you and a colleague from another team are at odds. You each have your own manager. But if you go 2 levels up, you find that common leader. In this case, it's the general manager. And the GM's goals, which come from the CEO, are the higher level objectives that you both actually share.
Okay, theory is great, but let's see how this thing plays out in the real world. I'm going to tell you a quick story from a factory floor that shows exactly how this rule works when the rubber meets the road.
All right, so we're back with our production manager, who is obsessed with efficiency, and our quality manager, who is laser-focused on perfect quality. They are at a total stalemate, just arguing back and forth and getting absolutely nowhere. And here's where it gets brilliant. Instead of continuing the argument, the quality manager decides to reframe the entire conversation. They look 2 levels up, at the goals the CEO has for their shared boss, the general manager. And then the realization hits. For the company's just-in-time strategy to work, the CEO absolutely needs both efficiency and quality. They're not opposing forces at all. They're 2 sides of the same coin. And just like that, they're aligned. They can find a new path forward, together. This story really reveals a much deeper truth about what leadership is all about. It's not about winning an argument. It's about creating synergy. The most effective leaders, they don't confront someone and tell them they're wrong. What they do is guide them so they can see the bigger picture for themselves. Because when somebody has that aha moment on their own, the change is real and it actually sticks. So let's just put these 2 approaches side by side. You've got confrontation, which is all about proving someone wrong. That always creates winners and losers. But then you have guidance, using this 2 levels up rule. That's about helping people realize the common goal themselves. And that doesn't create winners and losers. It creates synergy and real consensus. So, how can you start applying this to your team, like right now? Well, it all starts with a little bit of self-reflection. Let's do a quick leadership check-in and turn the lens back on you for a second. I want you to ask yourself these questions, and be honest. Do the people on my team really understand the high-level goals that I'm being held accountable for? Or maybe, am I a little too focused on my own department's objectives? Just answering these honestly is a huge first step toward building that alignment.
I will end with this really powerful thought. You never have to prove people wrong if they can self-realize it on their own. That is the heart and soul of the two levels up rule. It's not about forcing your point of view. It's about expanding everyone's view so you can all see the same destination and finally figure out how to get there together.